know, and basically they let the Louisiana, I think it's the Seafood Council, kind of take the reins on any kind of enforcement on that.
It goes to the state.
Yep. So, all right, let's go back to the phones. Good morning. You're on Talkback.
Hey, my wife and I were at Caro's on Monday night, and they had a sign saying that the shrimp was imported.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least they're being honest.
They let you know right away. Yeah, they let you know. And and we got the shrimp tacos. That's what we always get. Mm-hmm. So,
well, good to know it's coming from a muddy pond.
Yeah, there you go. That's Caro. There are very few Mexican places I really like, and Caro's is one of them. So
I love Caro's.
Yeah, I like the. You know, it's a good Mexican restaurant when most of the time they're Hispanic customers eating.
There you go. That would be a dead giveaway.
And Miffy, who owns it, they're also nice. So I like them a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah. So So it's that's probably our go-to place. That new one in Pineville is pretty good too, in the old Ryan's building.
Oh, what's that called again? I haven't been there yet.
Fuego, something? What is it? I forget what it's called. We've been there a couple of times, but that's actually pretty good.
Fuego.
Fuego, that's it.
Yeah.
I like me some tequila too, over in Pineville on 28. I love tequila.
I'm glad you explained that. I was like, wait, what?
Tequila's restaurant?
Yes.
I mean, I like tequila too, but I mean, I like both of them. And the song is great.
Yeah, what's your next restaurant you're going to review?
I can't say yet because I don't know. I got a couple that I'm working with right now. I'm trying to get something lined up, but
I like that one you did the other day. I've never been to it in Marksville, so I went online the menu. That looks really good.
Oh, then Roy Gilbo, who runs that place, one of the people that run it, is fantastic. It's literally like Mama's Kitchen in the middle of this historic building. Like, it looks like an actual kitchen they just built in the middle of it, and they're just doing home cooking. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to take your wife and kid there one day.
I need to take, my wife would love it. Exactly. My mom would love that place.
Le Petit Affair?
Le Petit Affair. And now I have to look up again what it means. It's not what you think it means, but it's something else. So.
Hey, I saw the menu had shrimp and grits as an option for, at least for that Tuesday one.
Yeah.
When they had it listed.
I had the Cuban with their homemade bread, and I had the crawfish. It's almost like a crawfish boil salad. It was really good. But all of their stuff is farm to table, so they're getting all of their produce, meat from the Avoyelles Parish community. Sometimes it's his friends who hey, I have a bundle of blackberries. Do you call it a bundle or a bushel? I don't know. Of blackberries, he made cheesecake out of it.
Wow.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So.
Did you have dessert?
Wow.
Yeah, cheesecake.
Wow, that looks good.
I noticed you didn't bring me any.
Well, I had to give it to my wife. I didn't even know you like cheesecake.
That's my favorite.
Huh. I'll get you some.
Okay.
We should just drive over there.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, you would like it. I think
let's
skip the seafood.
Right. Yeah, not going to do that. But all right, thanks for the call this morning. We need to take a quick break.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
Hello, I'm Dr. Noah Miller. I'm the new guy at the clinics. I'm a family medicine physician from Vedrine, Louisiana, and I'm now accepting new patients. Call today for an appointment. The clinics offers a wide range of services, including primary care, family and chronic care, urgent and acute care, on-site lab and x-ray as well. Same-day appointments are available, and we accept most insurance and Medicare. Experience exceptional care at the clinics. 1587 North Bolton. Call 445-9823 or reach us online at theclinics.us. Looking forward to seeing you at the clinics.
So, June has finally arrived, and you don't have to have a thermometer to tell it's hot outside. Keep your home comfortable all year long with Southern Air. Now through the end of June, get a comprehensive AC tune-up for only $69 per system. Book your appointment by the 30th to lock in this special offer. Don't wait until your cooling system fails on the hottest day of the year. Act now, let us bear it. Visit southernairnow.com or call 318-777-5555.
Did you know that 71% of all licensed real estate agents did not sell a single property in 2024? Hi, this is Trish Lala. When it's time to make the largest financial decision of your life, buying or selling a home, what's happening in the market really matters. The good news is you actually can still come out ahead if you place your trust in an agency with decades of experience handling all of those ups and downs. When experience matters, we're here for you. The Trish Lala Group.
Talk back. To take part in the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK.
So you think I have a lot of children? Apparently the guy who founded the app Telegram, Pavel Durov, he plans to leave his fortune to his 106 children. He has 6 kids of his own, but at least another 100 from those he fathered through sperm donation.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Oh my goodness.
That's more than Elon.
I was about to say Elon might have 1,000. You never know.
You never know. All right, to the phones we go. Good morning. You're on Talkback.
I heard you mention that you're going to have a discussion about carbon sequestration at 8:05.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering if there's been anybody out there that has been approached by companies that are signing up timber owners a 40-year contract for carbon credits. And they propose to pay you a certain amount for the carbon credits generated by your forestry land. It sounds like it's too good to be true, but it's a 40-year contract. And I'm just curious if anybody out there is familiar with these type programs and what they think about it.
Did you get offered that? Is that why you're calling?
Yes, we got offered that.
Huh. How much, do you mind me asking how much they offer?
Well, I don't know how they generate the carbon credits and how much they pay for it. That's one of the things that I'm concerned about, too. Like I say, it sounds like it's just too good to be true. But one of the restrictions is you can't thin your land for 5 years if you have timber that's ready to be thinned. Mm-hmm. That's one of the restrictions. And, I'm considering it, but I'd like to have some input from someone that is more related to it than I am at this point.
Do they have any restrictions on your mineral rights if they do that?
No, there's no restrictions on mineral rights, but they have access to your land 24/7, 365. You can't stop them from coming on it. Mm-hmm. Now, what they're doing during that period of time, I have no idea. But I was just wondering if maybe somebody out there is more familiar with this than I am and could give us some input. But it sounds like a good program, as far as the potential carbon problem, which I don't believe there is one. But if they're willing to pay, for carbon credits and your land is just sitting there doing nothing and, it's not paying enough to cut it, why not do it?
Interesting. Well, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I want to say in all the discussion that we've had and at that forum last Monday at Philadelphia, something about that was mentioned, but it's been like drinking water from a fire hose learning about this topic. So I would definitely at least consult with an attorney, maybe have them look over the contract language to make sure that it is what it purports to be before I would sign anything.
Well, I'm in the process of having that done, and I was just curious if anybody else is involved in it and if they're satisfied.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, can you stay on the line during the break? I want to talk to you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, well, we're going to go ahead and just put you on hold for a second, and then I think Steve wants to get more from you. So hang on, sir.
Okay.
We appreciate that.
All right.
Yeah, so again, a lot of questions with this whole situation. We have Mr. Roland coming up at 8:05. He might even know a little bit about that. Roland Hollins, he's a police juror from Allen Parish, where they're doing a lot of investigating into this.
Yeah, Verner and Allen have been kind of at the forefront of this, as you know. Mm-hmm. Before Rapides Parish kind of dabbled into it as well, and it seems to be trickling across the state in this area. People getting concerned about it, so we'll have him on to talk about it.
Yeah, all right. And you might also want to check out Stephen's story on our Cenlaw Broadcasting Facebook page that he did yesterday about this, and an interview he had with Chuck Owen. Chuck's made it clear that pretty much the people of Vernon Parish don't want this. Now, Beauregard sounds like they're undecided. They may be considering.
And there's Cameron Parish property owners that like the idea of it. I mean, there's money involved.
There, yep. There is money involved.
Not politics. There's just no way.
Yeah, imagine that.
I think I can get a carbon credit for the ficus I have in my backyard.
You've been listening to Talkback. The opinions expressed were those of the hosts and callers, and not necessarily those of Cenlaw Broadcasting. FM 104.9, AM 970, KSYL, and KRRV 100.3 HD3, Alexandria. It's 8 o'clock. This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. President Trump says he'll decide within 2 weeks on whether to order a U.S. strike on Iran, as Israel's defense minister calls for more attacks on what he calls symbols of the regime. The BBC's Dan Johnson reports from Jerusalem.
Israeli jets carried out further airstrikes last night, focused on the Iranian capital and the headquarters of the country's nuclear research organization. Iran's worst ever internet blackouts continued, making it difficult for people to communicate or share details of conditions on the ground.
Iran's foreign minister is addressing the UN's Human Rights Council today. Correspondent Elizabeth Palmer is in Geneva.
In the best possible world, they'll come up with a deal here, and then Israel will have a look at it, accept it, a long shot, and then Iran can go back to the table with the United States.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says he'll continue his court fight after last night's federal appeals court decision allowing President Trump to remain in control of the state's National Guard. He sent them into downtown L.A. to keep watch over anti-immigration raid protesters. Loyola law professor Lori Levinson.
The real question is what's going to happen next, because things very much have calmed down in Los Angeles.
It's getting steamy across the country. CBS meteorologist Rob Marciano is watching the temperatures rise in Westchester County, New York.
A number of heat watches and warnings up really over 20 states already from the east through the Midwest that are in the alert zone. And this number will only grow as we go through the weekend. So temperatures on tomorrow are going to be in the 90s in places like Des Moines, up and over 100 degrees in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Make that ditto for feels like temps on the East Coast. Looks like plastic bag bans and fees are working.
Researchers analyzed the data from 45,000 shoreline cleanups nationwide. In places where plastic bag bans or fees have been enacted, the number of bags found along shores dropped by as much as 47%. The study's lead author, Anna Popp at MIT, says the bag bans are helping to save marine life.
For example, sea turtles mistake them for jellyfish, one of their favorite snacks.
But even with the decreases in areas with bans, the total number of plastic bags found in cleanups nationwide still rose. Michael Wallace, CBS News.
Hitting the road for the 4th of July, you'll have plenty of company. AAA's Aexa Diaz says there'll be lots of drivers out there.
We're expecting overall 72.2 million people traveling between June 28th and July 6th. A majority of those people, about 85% of them, are expected to drive.
That would be a record number. Dow futures up 102. This is CBS News.
Progressive Insurance. Progressive can protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, RV, and more. In short, a lot of things. Bundle today at Progressive.com.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. But what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
Louisiana Radio Network, I'm Jeff Palermo. Louisiana ranks second among the states where people are most delinquent on debt, according to a study by the personal finance website WalletHub. Delinquency can trigger fees, higher interest rates, and credit damage, but hardship programs and a 30-day grace period may offer relief. WalletHub analyst Chip Lupo says the best course of action is to reach out to your lender and make a payment to become current on your accounts.
Then always pay at least the minimum amount to avoid falling into further delinquency. Of course, we recommend paying more than the minimum so you're not paying on that debt for the next several years.
Hopefully people are not going into debt buying Jell-O shots at Rocco's Pizza and Cantina in Omaha. LSU is the runaway winner of this year's Jell-O Shot Challenge, as more than 25,000 purple and gold Jell-O shots have been purchased. Rocco's manager, Pat McAvoy, says some heavy hitters have stepped up, like Todd Graves and Gordon McKernan.
Sales-wise, the biggest days were the days that Todd did 6,000 and Gordon did 8,888.
Louisiana Radio Network.
Summertime in Cenla is here. Time to explore. Feeling adventurous? Go biking or hiking in the National Forest, or camping at the many recreation areas that offer canoeing, kayaking, boating, and fishing. Fun for the whole family. Check out the animals at the zoo, on a petting farm, or at a drive-through safari. Love golf? Then hit the links. And for those with a taste for freshness, don't miss our farmers market. Want more ideas? Go to explorealexandriapineville.com. 2 cities, 1 epic summer.
Good morning. It's sunny and I would say hot day today, as we'll see afternoon high temps near 94 degrees. Could see an afternoon shower or thunderstorm, but only a small chance. We'll say 20% chance. We'll see winds out of the south-southwest at 5 to 10, and again that afternoon high near 94. Clear skies tonight down to 74, and then Saturday and Sunday, sunshine both days with the afternoon highs 94. From the Cenla Broadcasting Weather Center, I'm Dave Gratian. Currently 76 degrees in Cenla.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics. With 27 providers and 3 locations, someone can see you today.
It's Talkback, Central Louisiana's longest-running talk show. Whether it's the guests or the callers, Talkback is where Central Louisiana begins its conversation.
And welcome back. Hour number 2 of Talkback here on your Friday. It's Al Quartermont along with Stephen Maxwell. And carbon capture and sequestration has been a hot topic lately here on this show, as well as in the community. And we're going to continue that discussion here this morning. Stephen, I'm going to let you introduce our guests.
Yeah, I got my neighbor here, Roland Hollins from Fairview. He's a Allen Parish police juror, and Mike Nichols, a landowner over in Picken, that's on the edge of Allen Parish in Vernon Parish. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
So you guys have kind of been at the forefront of trying to get answers when it comes to carbon capture sequestration. Tell us about that process and some of the things you've been concerned about.
Well, whenever, Steve, when you was young. And
Mr. Roland, if you could turn your earphone on the left, turn it inside, because we're getting feedback. You got it facing out.
Oh, there
we go.
You're good.
I was wondering where it's coming from. There we go. All right. Sorry to interrupt, but we want to make sure it sounded good.
Yeah. Well, I was a police juryman from 96 to 2012. Mm-hmm. And then after serving that amount of time, I decided not to run in 2012, and I took a 12-year break, but never really had any intention on ever going back until I found out about this CCS coming into our parish. And being in the oil industry, whenever I found out that they was talking about bringing a bunch of CO2 pipelines and millions of tons of CO2 that would be injected underneath our sole water supply, I become very concerned. So I went to doing some research and didn't understand it all at the beginning. I knew enough about it by being in this industry that I knew immediately it wasn't just minimum risk like they had been saying, that it was real risk. So I talked to some engineers and some more guys in the oil field that had been around this a long time, and they all felt the same way, that it was more than minimum risk. And that's whenever I decided to run again and to try to protect our communities the best way we could, and to inform the public, because the public had no idea. We already had a 5-class test well drilled in our parish, and no stakeholder meetings, no public hearings, no information, so it was important that we dig in and really go to researching and looking into this and trying to get as much information that we could to give to our landowners and to our citizens. And that's kind of how this started.
So with that drilling you mentioned, who signed off on that? Do you have any idea?
Well, the Natural Resource Department is over permitting in Baton Rouge. So we know that they had to sign off on that permit, that Class 5 permit. But there was no public hearings in our parish that we knew about. The public didn't know. Now, I'm sure there were some elected officials that knew about it, but at the time, the public certainly didn't know. And since that time, we already go back from, I guess that might have started in 2023, whenever they drilled that, I think. Now, we already, when we went to really pushing back on this stuff back this year, they sent us a public notice saying that they was coming to hold a public meeting on April 30th for 2 more 5-class wells. And before we had that meeting, they already served another public notice, a notice saying that they was putting an application for a Class 6, which is the one that they can actually start building pipelines and start bringing CO2 to our parish. So before we even have a public hearing on the very 5-class wells, the 2 that Exxon was talking about, we already getting a notice for 6. So we passed a resolution in Allen Parish, even though we knew that Baton Rouge supersedes the parishes, we had to do something to protect our citizens. So we passed an ordinance that said all permits have to come through the police jury, the local authority. And that in that ordinance, see, there you go back a few years, that some of these legislatures, especially in the Livingston, Tangipahoa area, in those parishes, they've been fighting this because they was in the lead. They was the first parishes that was being forced into this. And some of their legislatures was fighting back, but they they just couldn't get the support that they needed. And one of the legislatures, Mr. Mack, tried to get a bill passed in 2023 that said these CO2 pipelines had to be 2 miles away from residents, hospitals, schools, nursing homes. And then I think his brother, he couldn't get it out of committee. And I think his brother brought it again last year. And instead of them agreeing to moving these CO2 pipelines 2 miles, they voted to put it 500 feet. They can put a CO2 pipeline 500 feet of our schools, our hospitals, our nursing homes, our residents. And you would have thought the leak in Mississippi in 2020 would have taught us better than that.
Yeah.
That pipeline was 1 mile away from Satorsa, Mississippi. If that pipeline would have been 500 feet of that town, I think we'd have a much different story. So in our ordinance, we also put in there a 2 mile, even though there's a law that says they can put it 500 feet. Here's the thing. I know that if they come to take us to court, by law, a judge is going to rule in their favor because that's what they passed in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
But what our responsibilities as local officials is to fight for your citizens' well-being.
Yeah.
And so it's tough to do that because the very people that's been passing all these bills and for industry is the very people that we support. Our parishes are strong supporters of our legislatures and our governor. So it's easy whenever you're pushing against the other side of the aisle on issues, but it becomes extremely tough when it's your same side that you're having to push against.
And I know that Chuck Owen, Rodney Shammerhorn, and some others had tried to get some bills passed this session that would have given local entities like your police jury more say-so, the people more say-so. Those didn't even make it out of committee because, and we heard in some of the testimony, legislators say, hey, if we allow this, then some of these companies that say that they're going to come here have said that they won't. And so it never got out of committee. How concerned are you about that fact that what seemed to be sensible legislation just got shot down?
Well, you're exactly right. I called the 29th of April of 2025 a day that the people's rights died in Baton Rouge. Because, with all this that we've been faced with, the people didn't even know about. They try to say, well, we still learning or we didn't know. But in 2020, 1 week after the Mississippi pipeline leak, Senator Hewitt passed Senate Bill 353. In that bill, 1 week later, in the year of COVID, when our people are locked down, in the year of Laura, when our people's backs are against the wall, we passing bills to give these corporations, billion-dollar corporations, eminent domain on CO2 pipelines and injection sites. So, and then it really kind of died down until about 23, when Speaker of the House, Sheikh Snyder, picked it back up and started pushing bills right at the end of session. I believe that bill was House Bill 571. You can look it up. But he initially kicked it back off again. In 2024, there was several bills that the legislatures tried to get CO2 injections put in the Gulf of Mexico. Instead of coming pumping it under our sole water source and all these pipelines through our communities, and it failed in committee. There was some that tried to remove eminent domain on CO2 pipelines and these injection wells. Failed in Republican-held committees, just like it did this year. There was bills that tried to give the people the right to vote on this in their parishes, failed in committee. And tried to give local government back the authority to deal with it locally, failed in committee. So when we knew all that, we put this alliance together, the Louisiana CO2 Alliance, and what it was made up was 4 police juries, Alan Beauregard, Jeff Davis, and Vernon Parrish. And, because we went to other police juries because I thought in the beginning, whenever we really started this, that local government authority and local officials was going to come together and not fight our legislatures or our governor, but demand that there's some things change. And so we put this together and we went to fighting for some bills for this session. And we had, Danny McCormick, Representative McCormick, Representative Owens, several of them, Rick Guyman, several of them brought some very important bills, Schermerhorn, to remove eminent domain. Couldn't get them out of Republican-held committee. House Bill 4, to me, was one of the most important bills for our constitutional rights. In 2006, the people of Louisiana voted on a constitutional amendment that said you could not use eminent domain unless it was a public purpose.
Right.
And so whenever they voted on that in 2020, we believe they went against that constitutional amendment that the people voted on. So, and then they happen to bring it up every year, Mr. Schermerhorn tried to pass a bill to repeal 353 of 20, but it failed in committee. But House Bill 4, think about this. House Bill 4 was to allow all 64 parishes, the people, to decide if this was going to happen in their parish. Failed in that committee. And then we had our 4 parishes that was of the alliance. We had our legislatures to have a parish option bill, and if all 64, if we couldn't get that passed, we wanted an option bill for our parishes. And then on May 15th, that fell in the committee. So there's been so many and look, think about this. And we had bills, just like the first very well in the United States is in Illinois. It already had 2 leaks.
Yep.
Well, the legislature just passed a bill this year where they can't even inject nowhere near that aquifer. But that company knew that it was leaking, but kept injecting. So we had one of our legislatures to bring a bill to hold companies accountable if they had a leak and didn't stop injecting, that it would be a felony on the CEO and the board of directors, because they can just blame it on the operator, said, in the field. No, we wanted, and we can't even get these bills out of Republican-held committees. And it's a tough fight.
Do you think the state's overlooking rural parishes just for the sake of economic development?
Well, that's what they put all this is economic development. And we're not against economic development. But what we're against is this: forcing parishes to submit for billion-dollar corporations' private gain on a scam. It's really a scam, these 45Q tax credits. They wouldn't even be doing this if it wasn't for those 45Q tax credits. So they forcing us, for those companies to make billions of dollars in our parishes. Think about this: to receive nothing, no funding, So I mean, but to be forced to do something and not even know that you're being forced, because people don't know.
Yeah. Wow. We need to take a break, gentlemen, and we'll come back with plenty more of this discussion here on Talkback.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics, with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
All of us have that one friend who can just light up the room with a smile. And sadly, how many of us are just a little bit envious of that friend? Well, here's the good news. The folks over at Today's Dental in Pineville can deliver that beautiful beaming smile. Over the years, hundreds of hopeful patients have visited and been completely satisfied. They've made getting dental implants an amazingly simple, low-anxiety procedure, one that's affordable for anyone's budget. The staff at Today's Dental go out of their way to make you feel comfortable with calming in-office IV sedation that's administered by a highly skilled, certified nurse anesthetist. And their multiple finance options make the entire procedure truly affordable. Isn't it your turn to light up that room? Give Today's Dental a call at 448-4540. It's a general dental facility on Highway 28 East in Pineville, owned by Dr. Jonas Gauthier. That's 448-4540.
Success is about momentum. For over 20 years, Kinetics has been moving businesses forward with cutting-edge IT, cybersecurity, and marketing solutions while keeping them secure, innovative, and competitive. We power progress with next-gen business technology and marketing solutions designed to keep your business ahead of the competition. Need seamless IT, a bold new brand, a strategy built for what's next? Don't get left behind. Move forward with Kinetics. Visit kbisp.com and take the next step today.
If you'd like to take part in the show today, call the BOM Bank Talk line at 442-8255. That's 442-TALK. And remember, if you're looking to purchase or refinance your home, call Christina Bagwell at the BOM Bank Mortgage Department at 448-2430.
Now back to Talkback, 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL.
Hi, welcome back to Talkback on KSYL. We have 2 guests in here talking about carbon capture sequestration. Roland Hollins, Allen Parish Police Sheriff, and Mr. Mike Nichols, a Vernon Parish resident. Now, Mr. Nichols, you live in the Pitkin area. We were talking to State Representative Chuck Owen yesterday from Vernon Parish, who was saying that we don't want Vernon Parish to be a dumping ground for this stuff. I have to assume you kind of feel the same way.
Well, when this came about a couple of years ago, we tried to have these discussions about, how much CO2 are we talking about? And we wanted some public meetings and town hall meetings. And in these large corporate companies, I personally asked them to have these meetings because I didn't feel like what was happening was very fair. They came in and, look, we're gonna inject carbon dioxide. Well, as a natural resource conservationist for 40 years, I know about carbon dioxide, I know about photosynthesis, but their approach was, it's just like in the leaves in the trees, and they were telling people this, and they tried telling me that, and I said, well, you're talking about photosynthesis, right? Where trees actually sequester carbon and they release the oxygen into the atmosphere. So, you know, it was some pretty questionable approaches when this all started that I had some major concerns with. And I brought that up to our elected officials. They said, look, we all need to sit down and we need to talk about this. What are y'all proposing? Where are you going to put it? What's the footprint of the carbon dioxide plume? You know, as landowners, you know, what about our fourth generation properties? My wife's a sixth generation Louisianian. And, you know, I know out there in the woods sometimes that, you know, we're forgotten about, you know, what we do. But we've sequestered carbon on our properties for it's generational. And it's not some, you know, pie in the sky thing. You know, I actually looked at it, you know, on our property, on our personal property. I said, how much carbon do we have out here in the trees and the soils, you know, in the shrubs and the grass? And, you know, it's very impressive when you look at what we've done over 30 years, you know, no tax breaks, you know, by not harvesting our mature timber and leaving them for the carbon sequestration and leaving them for water quality, leaving them for wildlife habitat. Just think about all those benefits. And we've actually sequestered more carbon than they're going to sequester with these proposals, because carbon dioxide is only 30% carbon. So we're putting what's actually less than that, 72% oxygen. So the taxpayers are paying to pump 72% oxygen underneath our lands and 30% carbon, roughly 28. But trees do 100%, okay? And that's what we've been doing all these years. See what I'm saying? So it was almost a little bit what I'm trying to get to. It was kind of offensive to have out-of-state people, you know, drive up in our driveway and tell us that we're going to start injecting CO2. And there's really not much you can do about it because the large corporate landowners have agreed to it. And, you know, it's been agreed to in Baton Rouge, which honestly, I knew these things already, but a lot of people didn't. My neighbors didn't. So it was a tough thing to start explaining, you know, what's this going to do to us? What's it going to do to our land values? Are people going to want to buy our properties? You know, are we going to be able to continue to get clean water? You know, all those questions came about, you know, just common sense. So we started asking those questions. And like Roland said earlier, they've already drilled a Class 5 well, you know, and the police jury didn't even know it was happening. I knew it was happening, but I've been working for the federal government for 40 years, and I know I'm not bigger than the government. It takes all the people. It takes all of us collectively. So we started asking these questions. You know, we started assembling as people and saying, look, how's this going to affect our community? How's it going to affect our properties? You know, you're proposing to do this within 2 miles of Pitkin High School. You know, where's this CO2? Where's this plume going to go? So, you know, we started getting with landowners and, you know, we started working together. And, you know, we're talking about, you know, forming a landowner association to address these kinds of things, these issues, not just CO2, but all these new proposals that's coming up, solar fields, data centers, and how that's going to affect rural properties. And I don't think as of right now, that we're getting a very fair shake in this, because you heard the potential, you know, hazards, the potential dangers to our communities. But what I'm saying, what about our land values? What's this going to do to our land values? Is it going to decrease at 50%? I mean, you're talking about creating a hazardous an industrial hazardous waste disposal zone of 40,000 acres, y'all. And the reason it's that big, you say, well, how can it be that big, Mike? Well, that's what they need to explain to us, these people who are proposing this. But I can kind of answer that question. I've done a lot of research on it, because they don't have any idea where this plume's going to go. It's not some neat little package. You know, you're talking about pore space, little cracks and crevices. So you may pump it underneath the ground 5 miles away, and 5 years from now, due to the intense pressure, because this CO2 is what's called a supercritical state. Okay, it wants to expand by its nature. So it's going to go where the path of least resistance. So 5 years from now, it might be under my property. It might be under my neighbor's property. We don't know where this is going to go, but you know, we've offered to the legislature to let LSU, there's an independent scientist at LSU. He's willing to lead a team of independent scientists, from geologists to water quality specialists, and study this. So since this is taxpayer funded, why don't we do that? I don't understand that. Why don't we do that? To me, that's something we should do, because it's taxpayer funded. You know, we're funding 100% of this stuff.
And the big issue you guys have too is really protecting landowner rights. That's a big thing for you guys.
Yes, sir. Because Danny McCormick brought some bills to protect landowners. Because if it's CO2 plume, if it ends up underneath in your pore space, and it will block them from being able to do any future drilling for oil and gas. Now, they might figure out the technology to do that one day. I don't know. But here's the thing you got to think about is they're not really going to want to take a chance at punching another hole through a CO2 plume to where it can track back up toward the water aquifers. But so landowners, you take a young couple, for instance, that's working, both of them's working, and they have 100 acres they paying a mortgage on. And what would a one oil and gas well do for their future? But yet now we have blocked their minerals for $1 billion corporation tax credits, for the corporations to make millions of dollars. It devaluates those people's property. If a CO2 pipeline is close to your property, do you think the value of your property is going to go up or go down? There is a lot. What they are doing goes against anything good for landowners. The only landowner that's going to benefit from this is these big, large corporations, timber companies, or whatever they are that's injecting this stuff in. But this is what I've said. I don't care where you go inject billions of tons of CO2 or millions of tons. It goes under everybody's water. Yeah. And they like to compare this to enhanced oil recovery. That's all you're going to hear.
Right, I've heard that, yes.
That's what SunGas likes.
Yeah.
We'll bring up when they come on the show.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. We'll come back to talk more about that right after this.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
This is the Bloomberg Money Minute. No trading yesterday for Juneteenth, but futures are pointing to a positive opening on Wall Street amid U.S. uncertainty on Iran. The president set a 2-week timeline on a decision. Federal Reserve Governor Chris Waller says the central bank could lower interest rates as soon as next month. Waller's comments following the Fed's decision to keep interest rates steady. Policymakers say they're still keeping an eye on inflation, but have signaled 2 rate cuts by the end of the year. Microsoft is reportedly planning more layoffs. Sources say the software giant's letting go of thousands of workers, mostly in sales. Microsoft is expected to announce the cuts early next month at the end of its fiscal year. And a bit of a breakfast bummer. General Mills has decided to discontinue 3 Cheerios flavors: Honey Nut Cheerios Medley Crunch, Chocolate Peanut Butter Cheerios, and Honey Nut Cheerio Minis. The company says they're getting pulled due to customer demand and ingredient availability, but maybe not forever. Frosted Lemon Cheerios are backed by popular demand. Monica Ricks, Bloomberg Radio.
Imagine walking where land meets sea, where every step echoes centuries of stories. This is the Portuguese Coastal Camino de Santiago. From Porto's riverside charm to Galicia's wild coast, follow a path through fishing villages, ancient chapels, and windswept beaches. Walk the Camino, feel the call. It's more than a journey, it's a transformation. Join our small group, escorted by Christine and Father Joy in May of 2026. FreedomTravelLLC.com, your international travel architects.
Got a big day ahead of you? Then it's best to fuel up with some of Cenla's best at Bricato's restaurant. Walk right in and just smell that home-style cooking. Place your order, take a seat, and do breakfast right till 9:30 this morning. Get fresh biscuits, eggs any way you like them, melt-in-your-mouth pancakes, grits, hash browns, sausage, bacon, even wraps and sandwiches. And don't forget their fresh brewed coffee. Bricato's Restaurant, 28 West, right across from the Coliseum. Your breakfast is waiting for you.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group, and I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney or if I look like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. At Wesley, we've helped over 40,000 families cancel their timeshare without me being an attorney. And I want to share with you how we do it. Just give my office a call, and you will not talk to an attorney. And I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll get you out of your timeshare, or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-714-9090. 800-714-9090. 800-714-9090.
Good morning. It's sunny and I would say hot day today as we'll see afternoon high temps near 94 degrees. Could see an afternoon shower or thunderstorm, but only a small chance. We'll say 20% chance. We'll see winds out of the south-southwest at 5 to 10, and again that afternoon high near 94. Clear skies tonight down to 74, and then Saturday and Sunday, sunshine both days with the afternoon highs 94. From the Cenla Broadcasting Weather Center, I'm Dave Gratian. Currently 79 degrees in Cenla.
To take part in the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL. Now back to Talkback.
Hi, welcome back to Talkback. Stephen Maxwell here with Al Quartermont. Joining us in the studio is Allen Parish Police Juror Roland Hollins and Mike Nichols, a concerned citizen over from Vernon Parish. We've been talking a lot about carbon capture sequestration. If you're wondering, like, okay, this is Vernon, this is Allen Parish, Beauregard. Well, one of the companies that's proposing to use carbon capture sequestration is Sungas Renewables over at the old IP mill in Pineville. We've had them on as well. But now we're getting the other side of it, some concerned landowners, concerned citizens. So, guys, they have a meeting. You guys been going to meetings across the state. We had one in DeVille a couple of weeks ago. What are some of the things you want to do now? What's the message you want to get out, and what can you do?
Well, we just got to continue our mission, and our goal is, number one, to inform the public of what we believe that our constitutional rights could be trampled on for tax credits for billion-dollar corporations, or, our landowner rights. And not only that, but the risk that we believe exists. Because, they want to compare it to enhanced oil recovery. That's all you hear. Yes. 40, 45 years we've been doing this. Well, why did you have to create a whole new permit, a Class 6? Enhanced oil recovery takes a Class 2, but you had to put a whole new permit together. But the difference is the accumulation of it. You're talking about 2 billion tons in this Cenla hub. You can't compare, And there was one of the scientist professors out of Texas, Austin, I believe, that said, we believe we got this figured out in the labs. But the real facts will be, and the real test to be, after we've been injecting in these formations for some time, because you can't scale it up compared to an aquifer in a lab. So I just don't think, I don't think they have no proof, no data. There's no data because there's not been no CO2 injection for storage in Louisiana.
Stephen mentioned the Sungas project, and I think here in Rapides Parish, even some people have gotten that confused with another project, which is the Cenla Hub, as it's called. And if you go and you look at that website, it shows a pipeline that starts up in, I believe, Bossier Parish or near that area, and then comes all the way down and stores the carbon from a couple of different projects up there in both Vernon and Rapides parishes. So what do you guys know about that project as far as where it is with everything?
Well, from what I understand, it's out by the lake, and CLECO's involved in that. But, I don't have the specifics of it, but it's just another storage site. 'Cause you're right, they call them hubs. The one near us is called the Denbury Draco Hub, and it's targeted for, way more CO2 than, that I can even understand, just an overwhelming amount. And just like the project up here, we don't know, the project in Rapides Parish, we don't know how much they're proposing to put. We don't know the footprint because they haven't shown us those things. And to me, that should be, you should have to provide the stakeholders and the public and the communities those things before you can even apply for a Class 6 permit to do this. That's just the way it should be done, But to say one more thing about it, I think you're right. People are confused about the projects, in storage versus, let's say, manufacturing methanol. Those kinds of things, and liquefied natural gas. We've been doing it for years. We've been making methanol for 100 years. And you hear these people say, oh, we got to do this. We got to hurry up and do this, or our economy's going to collapse. It's just not true. We're going to continue to make liquefied natural gas, and we're going to make methanol, whether we inject CO2 or not. And like I say, my perspective of it is you're going to release more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere by doing these injection projects, because of the tremendous amount of energy that it requires to move CO2 hundreds of miles and inject it a mile beneath the surface. You're going to release more carbon dioxide than you actually store.
Interesting. Hey, we have a call coming in. Let's go ahead and take that. Good morning. You're on Talkback.
Hey, this is Will. And I asked this question last week, and I'm going to ask it again. Instead of injecting it into the ground, there are sciences that you can take CO2 and make building materials from it, which would actually be a benefit to society. And why are we putting more emphasis on that rather than injecting it to formations, geological formations, about which we don't know the impact?
Well, there's technology. Scientists have developed technology right now to separate carbon and oxygen, okay? And you're exactly right. Those are the kind of things we need to be looking at. Not this CO2 injection. It's just not going to work. So yes, you can use carbon for all kind of uses. I mean, you can put it in the soil once you separate it. But one thing that we ask, there's been a lot of research in putting it in concrete. And, why not look at things like that? God knows we need some roads and bridges in Louisiana, right? Let's put it in concrete and let's get to building roads and bridges.
Say that again, sir?
And hurricane-proof materials.
Hurricane-proof materials.
Exactly.
My guess is going to be that there's not any federal dollars behind that.
That's correct. Your guess is very spot on.
Am I getting just cynical in my older age, or
no?
Healthily skeptical.
Thank you for covering for me on that.
Thank you, caller. We need to take another break. Coming up with more right after this.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics, with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
The clinics welcome Dr. Noah Miller, family medicine physician, to our team. Dr. Miller from Vadrine, Louisiana, is now accepting new patients. Call today to schedule your appointment. The clinics offers a wide range of services, including primary care, family and chronic care, urgent and acute care with on-site lab and x-ray. Same-day appointments are available, and we accept most insurance and Medicare. Experience exceptional care at the clinics, 1587 North Bolton. Call 445-9823 or look us up online at theclinics.us.
Attention all real estate agents, property owners, and lenders. When you or a client needs a real estate attorney, call the professionals at Thompson Law Firm. Whether the legal matter is basic or complex, the Thompson Law Firm can accurately guide you or your client to a successful outcome. That's why numerous industry professionals have trusted the Thompson Law Firm for years. They also handle estate planning, successions, and business law. Call them at 473-0052. I am a paid non-client attorney spokesperson.
Part of the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK, 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL. Now back to Talkback.
All right, we have more calls coming in for our guests. Let's go ahead and take that. Good morning. You're on Talkback.
Is this really about the tax credits, or is this more about just greed and money? I was going to ask Mr. Rowland that.
Okay.
Well, the 45Q tax credits, I've been in so many meetings, even with industry, and I've been told several times, even by those guys, who believes that we're going to lessen the rate of temperature by 1.5 degrees by pumping all this CO2 through our pipelines, through our communities, under our water? They've told me several times, we wouldn't even be doing this if it wouldn't be for those 45Q tax credits. So it is about the money. It's about billions and billions of dollars. Think about this, that one well in Allen Parish, the one well, supposed to hold 150 million metric tons at $85. That's $12.750 billion for that company. So, and then the one that captured gets a piece of that, the pipeline, the transporter gets a piece of that, and the injection company gets a piece of that. So when you really look at this, it's really about the money. It's all about the money. 45Q tax credits.
Always about the money and politics. So thank you, caller. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much. So you mentioned the CO2 Alliance, which is comprised of several police juries. You mentioned Allen Parish, Beauregard Parish, Vernon, and was there one other?
Jeff Davis.
Okay. Have you guys approached Rapides Parish? Have they been receptive to joining into this?
I visited with Rapides Parish back in July of last year. One of the parish jals got me on the agenda, and I went before them and was trying to get them to consider joining our alliance. And, one of the things that I told them is that you got 130,000 people in Rapides Parish. Are we going to wait for people to be sitting on their front porch in their rocking chairs watching pipe trucks and welders go by, and they don't even know that this is coming? Look, I don't want to impose upon another local official or another parish, but we have tried. We went to a lot of parishes. I understand how hard it is to go against Baton Rouge when it's your side. But let me tell you, Baton Rouge didn't elect us. The people that live in our communities, our neighbors, our friends, our, communities, our residents, our citizens are our first responsibility, even against, if we have to stand strong against the very people that we believe in. Nobody put more signs out than I have for those people in office. But our people come first.
Another call coming in. Let's go ahead and take that. Good morning. You're on Talkback.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
I just wanted to ask the question. I've looked up and it looks like Iowa's been through this, and it looks like South Dakota, Nebraska, several states. And I think it's Iowa lost, and looks like they've lost their eminent domain. And I'm just wondering, if we're going to be in Iowa, or are we going to be a South Dakota who stood up against it and refused to have it? And I guess it's all up to the people.
Iowa, the governor vetoed it, and from what I understand, they're trying to override her veto. South Dakota, they had 80 pending lawsuits against the landowners. You hear all this talk about, we're not going to use eminent domain. Then why have it available if you're not going to use it? Because I heard different testimony in Baton Rouge from these companies. I heard it with my own ears from the horse's mouths. They said, we got to have it. We got to have it. And so I was down there in Baton Rouge when they were pushing this, and there's not one landowner that I know that's for eminent domain for private gain, which what that means is they're allowing a private company, the government's not even doing it, the state of Louisiana, a private company like these big oil companies will be able to take your land through eminent domain. So I agree with you. Let's read what the governor of South Dakota said, because freedom stops where you infringe on other people's freedoms and liberties. And he told those companies in South Dakota, it's up to you to regain the trust of the people, because y'all are the ones who lost it. So I think we need to have that approach here in Louisiana. And, I would, urge the governor. And I actually sent an email to the governor of South Dakota and asked him to talk to Governor Landry. So, those are the kind of things I think we need to do. Let's look to where people who's experienced this and learn from those lessons.
Well,
I want to say that everything that you guys are saying is going to happen to Louisiana is already happened in Iowa and South Dakota. So it's 100% true. We've seen the results in Iowa that the governor did veto it and given eminent domain or trying to. We see that South Dakota, and our elected officials, our representatives, are they going to be South Dakota people? That stand up for their people, or are they going to bow down to these companies? And I think that's what it's all about. But people better wake up and look at Iowa and South Dakota and see how real this is.
Thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. There's several states that's facing this problem. West Virginia, Indiana, there's some other states.
Illinois has the Decatur.
In Illinois.
Yeah.
Now, you think about the bills that got beat on the 29th. Rodney Sherman probably had one of the strongest bills to repeal 353 of 20, Sharon Hewitt's bill, which would have 100%. We couldn't get these. They had 3 or 4 eminent domain bills. Britt Guyman had 601, House Bill 601. And we failed on the 29th, but we fought so hard that on the 7th, some of them that had been voting against us voted for that bill, and it got moved to the floor, to the House floor. But then the House floor, you couldn't get enough votes on the House floor to get it on through, so he just kept delaying it week after week. And finally, Tyler Gray, his Senate Bill 244, Britt Guyman and Tyler and them got together, and they worked out a deal to add pieces of his bill to that. It's not a perfect eminent domain bill like we should have in Louisiana.
It basically designates that if the private company could be designated like a public interest, kind of like utility, then they would have eminent domain. Is that basically what it was?
It's like a higher standard.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But there's still a loophole.
It's a loophole.
Well, South Dakota's bill says no eminent domain for CO2 pipelines. And just I wish people would go read Governor Larry Roden's letter that he wrote about this. It's very sensible. He owns a ranch. He's been fighting with us for 20 years, ever since this nonsense started in 2005, y'all. And we're really on a slippery slope covered with banana peels by the path we're going down. Because, I know I'm being a little bit facetious, but what's next? Building screen doors for submarines? This is not going to work, folks. What they're proposing is a waste of taxpayers' dollars, regardless of your stance on climate change. It's a total waste.
All right, we need to take our last break. We've got the phones lit up. We'll try to get as many calls as we can when we come back.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
When you think of real estate, one name is at the top of the list, Ritchie Real Estate. Matt and his team are experts when buying and selling homes, businesses, land, leases, or even industrial buildings. And at Ritchie Real Estate, they can even handle all of your property management needs. They make the entire process easy and as stress-free as possible. They are your full-service choice for anything in real estate. Trust the professionals and find them online at ritchierealestate.com.
From America's #1 travel radio show, I'm Mary Carey, and this is your RM World Travel Minute. Since we're rolling into summer today and the start of a busy vacation time for Americans, I thought it would be a good day to talk about whether you should purchase travel insurance or not. Unforeseen circumstances like illness, weather, natural disasters, or geopolitical unrest could compromise a trip at any point in time. A general rule of thumb is the more you have to lose financially should something go awry, the more likely you should absolutely have a travel insurance plan. For example, non-refundable flights, hotel bookings, concert concert tickets, things like that. If you have an active schedule, like hiking in Patagonia or climbing glaciers in Iceland. Remember, if you sustain an injury and you need medical attention, your medical insurance will not cover you when you're abroad. There are plenty of companies out there, but we trust TravelGuard. Although we're now partners, we've used TravelGuard for more than 25 years for our own personal travels. You can review plans, you can ask questions. All you need to do is visit travelguard.com/Carrie, and you can find more travel info at rmworldtravel.com. Until the next time, happy travels, everyone.
I'll be here to hear what's on your mind.
As an adult, kids want to know you're listening to them, but they also want to listen to you. When it comes to alcohol, they want to know your expectations and how and why to avoid underage drinking. Talking early and often about it in everyday conversations reinforces your message and keeps lines of communication open. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I'll be by your side.
970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL. To take part in the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK. Talk back.
All right, we only have a few minutes left with our guests, and this has been phenomenal. We could go another hour, I'm sure, but let's try to get some more calls in. Good morning, you're on Talkback.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. I hope y'all try to reach out to President Trump and our federal legislatures, our Senate and Congress men and women to try to stop this. God bless you. Thank you for your information.
And you guys have reached out to some of our delegation in Washington.
Yes, all the federal delegation. You know, none of our Republicans voted for this, ironically. And now, I mean, zero voted for the Green New Scam, we call it. And we've wrote letters, we've wrote emails, just on and on and on, to the president, to Elon, to all the senators, even the Democratic, our Democratic federal congressman from Louisiana. So we've been talking to all those folks.
Have you gotten responses from any of the federal delegation?
We have been well received, but as far as a stance, the only person that took a stance that I'm aware of is Congressman Clay Higgins. Congressman Higgins wrote on to our letter to abolish the 45Q tax credits. He finally signed on. I'm very proud of him. It took longer than it should have, but our other federal senators and congressmen, our crickets, they seem to be in favor of this. So I don't know how you can all of a sudden be in favor of something that you voted against. I call that hypocrisy, is what I call that.
Last call, we're going to get on. Good morning, you're on Talkback.
Hey, sorry to bother you all, but I got another strategy you can add to your arsenal, and I believe that you got to get your friendly legislators here in the state to require them to put the first storage facilities underneath Baton Rouge and New Orleans and not allow them to move to a rural area until the storage capacity under our major metro centers is exhausted.
Well, that's a very good idea, but you know what? We don't even want any of our Louisiana people to be forced by Baton Rouge to assume this much risk that we've never faced before. Why not just go to the Gulf of Mexico like Representative Mack tried to get them to? We're not trying to stop industry, but we don't want industry or Baton Rouge to harm our generations coming after us. We're supposed to leave this better than we found it. And there's too much risk. I don't care what they say. To our water. Let me tell you, if you got a place, if my place is worth $50,000 and right down the road, my neighbor's place worth $5 million, if we mess up this water, what's the value of them two places? They become the same.
Yeah.
Go to the Gulf, like some of the other representatives that tried to get them to do, but they refused to do that.
Why do they want to force this on us? Is it because it's more expensive to go to the Gulf?
Well, it may be, but it's our tax dollars, and we ought to have say.
Yeah.
It may cost more to go to the Gulf.
But we actually recommended pumping it under the state capitol, but we found out that there's so much hot air over there, there's no more room for CO2.
Oh, man.
All right, we got about 30 seconds left. Just as a wrap-up, what can people do if they want to get involved? I know you have the Louisiana CO2 Alliance on Facebook.
Well, yes, sir. I think it's so important that people go and follow our page where we can keep people up to date. And it's important that Baton Rouge see that we have a lot of followers. We're going to be putting some charters together in other parishes, just with people, grassroots people. What they forget is this: the power is in the people's hands, but they got to act.
Awesome. And we have the Louisiana Private Landowners Association. We'll be online shortly. We have our domain, and we're putting that together, our nonprofit status. So we look forward to working with all the private landowners across Louisiana.
And I'm going to try and convince him to go on my camera downstairs, and we'll have something on Facebook, too. I'll share it, and I'll link y'all's organization on there as well. So,
Gentlemen, thank you both for being here today. This was great stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be talking again. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening this week. It's been a great week. Stephen, your first full week?
It was great. Busy.
Busy.
A lot of fun.
Look forward to another big week next week. Starting on Monday on Talkback. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
You've been listening to Talkback. The opinions expressed were those of the hosts and callers.